So, as I'm sure y'all have noticed, whether it's been on YouTube, those few people that still watch me regularly, or on Facebook, you know that I'm vacationing in Mackinac Island, Michigan, cottage country for me. And you know, look at where my family's beach is. Look at how beautiful all that stuff looks over there, right? Right on the water, so nice. Well, you know, I think that now might be a good time for me to review one of the hottest films that takes place at sea. Usually when you look at films that take place at sea, you'll think of Finding Nemo, Jaws, Titanic. Well, today I'm going to be reviewing one of those films. That's Titanic. So, yeah, when Titanic came out in 1997, when news first broke about it, James Cameron's budgeting, the movie being almost 200 minutes long, costing roughly $200 million to make. And yeah, the movie's budget was pretty much $1 million a minute. And in 1997, of course, you know, it's different now with how much things cost. But yeah, in 1997, that was insane. And nobody had faith in him in doing a good job because they're used to seeing him do The Abyss and Terminator and True Lies. Well, come 1997, Titanic comes out, and everyone expected it to flop really hard, but most people actually really liked it. Went on to win a bunch of Oscars, tying with Ben-Hur, 40-some years before. And it was a feat that hadn't been duplicated until Lord of the Rings Return of the King 6 years later. And to this day, there's still a lot of debate on how good of a film Titanic actually is. Well, is it my favorite film of 1997? Yes, it is, actually. Do I think that it deserved all 11 Oscars? Yeah, maybe. I'm okay with it. Me with Oscars, it's that if I don't agree with a certain thing, but if they're still worthy in some regard, then I'm just okay with it. Even if it's not my number one choice, I'm okay with it. And Titanic, some of their Oscar wins, that was like that. I was like that with it. And it being the highest grossing film of all time back then, it wasn't my personal favorite of the decade, or there were some other films that I thought were a little bit better of that. But you know, again, I was okay with it. But these days, a lot of people like to complain about the inaccuracies, the love story, the acting, and the fact that when this movie came out in 1997, that it was a total chick flick. Lots of teenage girls going to go see it. Lots of couples going to go see it because the girls all thought that Leonardo DiCaprio was oh so hot, and the way that he's able to romance Kate Winslet and save her and all that kind of stuff. They thought that was oh so cheesy and but you know, a lot of people that I know that have unrightfully bashed Titanic, that resentment is either them not liking romance films at all, even though a lot of truly great films are romance. Also, a lot of people like to complain about some of the things, whether it's Rose being floating safely on the door and Jack is freezing to death in the water. Well, okay, if Rose moved over and Jack went on himself, of course could have fit both of them, but they both would have froze to death. Jack should have just swam over after some people were dying, swam over and climbed up on one of those things themselves, because it does show that it takes him a while to actually die and stuff. People also like to complain about the very ending when Rose dies and she's back on the Titanic in the afterlife. And where's her family? That okay, we only see maybe 10 or 15 seconds of her on the Titanic when she dies. So maybe later on, that's just the beginning of her in the afterlife. Who's to say that a minute later there's her future husband, there's the rest of all of them and stuff. The romance between the two of them, well, I know a lot of people complain about that. Well, Leonardo DiCaprio does a great job in this. I thought he was great. He's like Clark Gable as Rhett Butler. Laurence Olivier in some of those romance films. He's great. He's awesome. He's not just a pretty face like a lot of chicks like to say. He actually is a cool dude. That was awesome. There was also Billy Zane's character of Cal Hockley. He was one of those villains that you just love to hate, and I thought that was some pretty good stuff too. And there was also the production design and the look of everything, the directing, all that stuff was great. And the amount of apparel that keeps rising and rising. And when the movie really switches gears into its survival mode, all that stuff, that's a lot of fun. That's fun to see. And we really feel so much heartbreak and so much anguish whenever we see someone about to die, or someone is dying. They know that their time is going to come, and there's nothing that much more that they can do. We feel so terrible for all of them. But all these people that complain about that and say, "Oh yeah, I don't care about," like, go watch NASCAR. Go watch NCAA. Like, come on. Is this a flawed film? Sure it is. But the amount of good that this movie has, like how immersive it is, how impressive the technical quality of the movie is, that really makes up for everything. I'll admit there are quite a few flaws in this movie, like when Rose says, "I'll never let go, I promise," and she breaks Jack's frozen hand off of hers, and his hand lets him go. "I'll never let go, I promise," and lets him go. Like I've always laughed my ass off at that part. But it's those kinds of little tidbits, those little flaws that will prevent this film from being as good as like a Godfather or a Citizen Kane or a Saving Private Ryan. But still, as I said, those small little tidbits, even though some of them aren't really all that small, all the other good that the movie has going for it really makes up for any flaws, and it really overshadows the amount of bad that this movie has. I absolutely adore this film. It's a personal favorite of mine. Easy 4-star score.